April is Confederate Heritage Month, and yes, unfortunately, that is a real thing. And so, in order to remind neo Confederates and Lost Cause ass clowns what their heritage is, the Sons of Liberty is executing a daily series throughout this entire month, commemorating anniversary events and honoring Southerners who remained loyal to the United States. If you're just coming across our content, make sure to follow the Sons of Liberty, as we'll be upsetting neo-Confederates and Lost Cause bigots all month long. On day 18 of Union Victory Month. Oops, I mean on day 19, since I'm a day late on this one. On day 19, we commemorate, if not celebrate, the anniversary of the Battle of Poison Springs in southern Arkansas, which technically was yesterday. Now, if you remember, back on the 14th, we introduced you to Captain William D. Matthews, one of only 3 black artillery officers in the Union Army during the Civil War. Matthews served with the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry, and his unit was present at Poison Springs, which was fought in 1864. Poison Springs is so called because, allegedly, the traitors of the Confederacy poisoned local water supplies to prevent them from providing sustenance for Union loyalists. Union forces had fared well in Arkansas, having recently defeated traitor Confederates at the Battle of Prairie Dane. At Poison Springs, the Union Army faced not only white Confederates but a brigade of Native Americans under Colonel Tandy Walker. The Union forces began to run low on supplies and ammunition, which took its toll at Poison Springs. Confederate traitors had been doing poorly in the battle, but the Union lines broke when soldiers, out of ammunition, began to retreat. This was a massive boon for their enemy. The Confederate traitors showed no quarter, with the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry killing and mutilating many of the captured soldiers. It was claimed that Walker's Choctaw soldiers took scalps from dead Union soldiers. The 1st Kansas Colored lost 182 men out of 438 who had participated in the battle. 117 of the 182 losses in the Kansas Regiment were killed, which was an unusually high killed-to-wounded ratio. Furthermore, on April 25th at the Battle of Marks Mill in the same area, Confederate soldiers would again murder wounded African American soldiers that failed to escape and had surrendered. So why are we commemorating this event? Because Lost Cause neo-Confederate dipshits want you to believe that their Confederate troops were honorable soldiers. Mutilating and murdering enemy prisoners of war is a war crime. Now, having said that, in the April 30th Battle of Jenkins Ferry, men from the 2nd Kansas Colored Infantry Regiment murdered Confederate soldiers, arguably, in revenge of the massacre at Poison Springs. This battle was notable because Federal forces had been worn down and were running low on food. The Jenkins Ferry crossing at the Saline River forced the Union soldiers to dig in, and they built fortifications once they discovered that they could not cross the river, which was swollen from days of heavy rain. They had the river at their backs, another swollen creek on their right flank, and a swamp and steep slope on their left. The weather was also foggy. They funneled the Confederates into a narrow area, creating a murderous approach that was made even more treacherous by ankle-deep to knee-deep mud and pools of water. The 2nd Kansas Colored Infantry made a number of charges out of the fog, which had also become thick with gunpowder smoke, and during each charge they took their vengeance, cutting throats of or shooting wounded Confederates. I would note, having just criticized Confederate treatment of captured African American troops, that there's a distinction here where the wounded and quagmired Confederate troops reportedly never surrendered. They were essentially stuck in place between armies. Several Confederate commands never even submitted after-action reports, and the Confederacy burned many of the records before being defeated, so we'll never know if the retaliatory actions were against any rules. For the entire month of April, the Sons of Liberty is running a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo to create a year-long web series on Civil War history. We have over 80,000 subscribers on just YouTube alone, so if just 10% of them gave $5 each, we'd be well past our funding goal. Funding this campaign means that the Sons of Liberty admins get to take you on an exciting historical journey and, at the same time, help to educate or debunk, depending, various bits of Civil War history, myths, legends, and lies. Reminder that the Confederacy were traitors who betrayed the United States and tried to destroy the Union out of spite. Reminder that heritage, not hate, is lost cause horseshit. Reminder that the lost cause narrative is revisionist history bullshit. Reminder that the South seceded over slavery and economic factors tied to slavery. Also, another reminder that the Confederacy is a bunch of traitors who lost, got their asses kicked in a war that they started, and were forced to beg to be readmitted back into the Union. P.S. Your flag is a participation trophy. Die mad about it, fuckface. Hashtag not sorry, not sorry.
And now it's time for the throw punch!
Now, if you remember, back on the 14th, we introduced you to Captain William D. Matthews, one of only 3 black Confederate Really, dumbass? Not Confederate. Union forces had fared well in Arkansas, having recently defeated traitor Confederates at the Battle of Prairie Prairie Dawn? Delta Dawn, what's that flower you have on?